welcome to the view from the top from London Biggin Hill Airport. David, starting with you, you run an airport of great history, going back some 100 years, I think, and with very diverse businesses. What is it like?
Part of our challenge is to actually realise that we're more than just an airport. We're actually a complex business entity, and we provide and create an ecosystem of complementary businesses.
James, Oxford is known for being one of the most beautiful cities in the UK. University known worldwide. Not really about an airport though.
Funny enough, if you go anywhere in the world, you'll probably bump into a pilot that's probably trained at Oxford once upon a time, because historically we're best known as being the hub of one of the largest pilot training schools in Europe.
And, I was trained.
Indeed, yes. And not as old as Biggin Hill, but almost, in terms of having a World War II heritage as well. We do try and retain some features of that as well. But very much like Biggin, we're also a sort of hub of innovation and a lot of diverse businesses that feed off each other. On any given day, there's probably 1,000 people on site, but are feeding the rest of the local community with all sorts of opportunities that revolve around the existence of the airport. So it's a great hub of economic activity.
Looking here, we're at the Bombardier Service Centre, one of the biggest ones in the world, that opened last year. And on the other side, David, we've got the heritage flights with the Spitfires.
Yeah, it's a juxtaposition that most people would think that's slightly surreal. But this is the power of business aviation airports. And the same way that Oxford have attracted Airbus, we've attracted a global brand like Bombardier. We're sat in a world-class facility, 250,000 square feet. It can take 14 of the Bombardier's Global 7500s internal. It can take another 16 external. And we're now Bombardier's European hub. And the same with Oxford that have attracted Airbus again. We're the home to F1 as well. It's a sector that we hope the government recognises and acknowledge the value we provide in terms of economic benefits and job creation.
Do they really? Because I've been in the business for 30 years and I've seen several small business general aviation airfields closed and become industrial or housing estates.
This is a challenge because so many of these airports are privately owned, different to continental Europe, where a lot of them are owned by local authorities or regional authorities. And if you're a landowner and you own a piece of land with a concrete strip in the middle of it and it's not making you a living, you're going to be looking at alternative ways of making a living from that asset. We need local authorities, the planning authorities in the United Kingdom, to understand the value of these aerodromes and what they could mean to those communities in the future, because the technologies evolving today are really exciting and aviation is evolving at an incredible pace, and we need to preserve them ready for that new epoch of aviation that's coming around the corner, and we can't afford to lose those incredibly valuable assets. We're fortunate, we have a thriving business community at both our airports, but some of those that don't have so many anchor tenants at those aerodromes, we need to keep them going until such time that they can thrive.
We provide the lifeblood of the industry. Where are the future A380 pilots going to come from? 737 pilots, Airbus pilots, where are they going to come from? The housing problem doesn't get solved by flattening aerodromes and building houses. It simply doesn't. We're national assets, but we're managed through regional policies. So what I'd like to see is a connection between local government and national government when it affects national infrastructure.
What's your relationship with the community? Local community, the people that live at the end of the runway.
I'm sure both of us, we have issues from time to time with noise. One thing that has changed in recent times is different aircraft being used by the training schools, developing different noise footprints. We have a good working relationship with the community at large, and whenever we do get a noise complaint, we actually respond to each and every one of those personally, in writing or a telephone conversation on the call.
We need to identify the fact that there's a direct association with small airports and their communities. Yes, it's about noise, but it's also about job creation. So it's also about entering and being attractive to the youth. We take young people, young boys, young girls, and we expose them to the exciting parts of our industry. I answer personally every single noise complaint we get. And it is a small part of our business.
Do you have any numbers of the benefit of the small regional business, general aviation, to the economy?
Biggin did an economic study, and GVA, indirect, direct to UK economy, was around about 70 million. We have just done another study, and whilst we're waiting for the final results, early indications say we will have more than doubled that in the space of 7 years. So you're looking at something north of 150, 160 million GVA. I'm sure Farmer will be publishing not a dissimilar figure and the same as Oxford. So if you take that contribution of business aviation, it is significant. Then you look at all of the indirect benefits. So whilst we employ around about 1,400 people on the site, indirectly there could be double that figure. And these are local jobs for local people. And that's unique to small and business aviation airports.
We are a sort of incubator of new companies. I'll give you a classic example. There's a little company at Oxford, I say it's little, it was little, 15 years ago, an aircraft detailing company that cleans aircraft called Up and Away Aviation, set up by one single person who lived locally in Kidlington, and it's evolved and grown, and it's headquartered at the airport, but it now employs 500 people at 13 different airports around the UK, and this week it was just bought out by the largest airport services group in the United States, and they've now pledged to expand that business to £100 million turnover within the UK.
Going back to the days when I used to fly, I remember whenever I go to fly to do out of Biggin Hill, Oxford, or similar airports of the UK, I was delighted because there was no delays, there were no slots I had to worry about, and this became, I think, more important. So currently, where all the bigger airports that have restrictions.
Since COVID, there's been a reduction in the choice of commercial flights and the choice and the frequency of operations. You just had, even this week, I think, a scenario where EasyJet cancelled something like 1,700 flights this summer because of slot issues and challenges at Gatwick. Business aviation or private aviation unlocks incredible productivity gains for the business people that are using these aircraft. It's a staggering difference. You can go from landing on the runway to driving out of the airport in as little as 5 minutes.
But also, the entry level to this market has dropped. You're talking about people who can book aircraft and charter aircraft, and that's a core element of our business, where they're flying 6 or 7 or 8 executives to Zurich, rather than driving the 2 hours to Heathrow, queuing up.
With the emergence of the new technology, electric aircraft, eventually hydrogen, what's the future for business and general aviation?
Our industry has an ability to innovate, an ability to take an element of risk. The business aviation industry will focus on probably short duration, limited pax operations. And it's highly likely that when those product lines come into the market, they'll be limited by range and limited by weight. And this is an ideal market to be able to do those short hops. The entry point, the financial entry point into the market for those products is likely to be high. And we've got a customer base that would respond positively to that.
One of our tenants is going to be distributing one of the eVTOL products, Lilium aircraft. But in addition to that, we have a company called OXECU who are developing synthetic fuels at Oxford. General and business aviation airports are becoming by default the hubs for this new innovation that's coming into the sector.
What's really important is that central government and the regulator realise that we as a nation need to really be at the forefront of this. Otherwise, there'll be other European countries that will leave us behind.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And if anyone wants to get hold of you,
George, it's a pleasure, so thank you very much. They can go onto the Biggin website, find my contact details there, and I'll happily engage.
And the same here, George. Thank you very much for inviting us today. And yeah, absolutely, go onto the website and you'll find our details there. So thank you.